Hello, gardening friends. Today is Sunday, February 11th, and I thought I would start here in my dining room and show you that my Norfolk Island pine that I got on sale for Christmas and had decorated for Christmas, with full intention of throwing it out after it died. It did not die. In fact, it seems to like this western exposure, so I'm going to let it stay. It's got new sprouts all along the branches. But I thought I would share with you. I saw this done on YouTube and it seemed to be okay. It worked okay. But I had some pictures. You hear me talk about my home up in New York that I sold about 5 years ago. This is basically a photograph of it. It was about 4 acres and it was landlocked. It wasn't near any major highways. It was surrounded by other people's property. This was as it looked when I first retired. My mother lived here at that time. My grandmother's house is there. She had passed away probably about 20 years before this picture was taken, so 30 years from now. And in any event, the house was left vacant, and my grandmother's barn. And so when I had retired, I decided to definitely help the landscape out, but also at least maintain the buildings better than they had been. Unfortunately, I lost a hard drive and had not backed up my pictures. Yes, I know to do that now, but this was many years ago. So here's a picture of, in the wintertime, my mother's house. And my grandmother's house after I had fixed it up a little bit, at least exterior-wise. And I like the paint colors that I chose here in Alabama, so I used them in New York. This is a picture of what I used to call my Louis garden. It was a very geometrical garden that I had in New York. Made it basically with all discount plants that I bought at the end of the season, with the exception of the forsythias that are here and there. Those were all cuttings. Forsythias are extremely easy to take cuttings of. What I would do in this garden, the intent was to have all of these clipped plants, trees, and have a field in the middle of which I would mow different pathways depending on what I felt like. Sometimes it'd be a crisscross through the center, other times it would be like this around the edges, kind of like a little maze you could walk around in. This is a picture of a magnolia that I planted when I was 16 years old. I don't think I ever really did get to see it bloom spectacularly. Other people always took pictures of it because I planted it, of course, when I was 16, then went away to college and got a job and all that sort of stuff. But in any event, there it is. It was gorgeous. Picture of the Louis garden taken from under the magnolia with the forsythias blooming. Picture of my grandmother's house. You can see the grape hyacinths here. All of those grape hyacinths were in the grass. My grandmother had a bed in this area, and for all the time I was away at college, my dad mowed over everything and mowed over all the grape hyacinths. But I knew what they were, and I dug them out and I planted them up, and needless to say, they did really well. You can see I have borders of grape hyacinths. I kind of used them like the monkey grass I have here in Alabama. Another view of the side of the house. You can see how the forsythia hedge really looks gorgeous. That was my neighbor's barn. Some colchicums that I had. They're autumn crocus. These are the wild daylilies that I still have. I brought some back with me. Of course, grape hyacinths close up. And these were just some rhododendrons that I had planted by my barn. I did bring the lion head back to Alabama. And last but not least, these tiger lilies. They used to grow wild up in New York. I don't think they were native to the area. They would just escape from people's gardens. But I used to love the tiger lilies. They reminded me of my grandmother Mary, my dad's mother. So enough said about that. Just give you a taste of what I sold when I got rid of the property in New York. It was a relief to not have to take care of those buildings. You can see I have some flowers here. My poinsettia is still blooming. Here's where I brought my ponytail palm. It had spent many years here before I put it out for the summer. I'll probably put it out for the summer again, but it is very heavy and I don't like to move it a lot. So from now on, I'll just bring it in there from the get-go in the wintertime and let it enjoy the winters inside. Out on the front porch, I did bring in some grape hyacinths that I bought. Walmart sells those along with the regular hyacinths. If you haven't noticed, they're nice to have in pots and put on a tabletop or something. They have a very spicy, sweet fragrance to them, very unique. Still have my ground orchid blooming. I have another one waiting in the wings in the garage. I have two of them. And this one's in bloom right now. My torch begonia. Trying to think anything else here. Nothing new really is happening up here. Here you can see the amaryllis. The 5 buds have gone. Only one is left. Flower, that is. But the second stalk is opening up. And I can definitely count 4. But there's a possibility of a 5th blossom. So I have had once in, ever since I started growing amaryllis, one time I had one bulb that gave me 3 flower stalks. And usually the first stalk has the most flowers and they get less and less. But this one looks like it might have had 2 stalks of 5 flowers each. I don't know as if it was related in any way to the fact that it was encased in wax. And when it got freed from the wax, maybe it was just so happy that it got the moisture and stuff that it just put out more flowers than usual, or if it was just meant to be that way all along. I don't know. I do have a couple of buds coming on my Christmas cactus. I used to keep this cactus on this table. Well, not this table, but in that spot. And it bloomed for me every year. And I moved it back into that darker corner where the begonia is. And never bloomed while it was back there. So I moved it just a few months ago back to here. And apparently it does like it because it's setting some flower buds. I've had that ever since I left college many, many years ago. I repotted it twice. Outside, of course, the white cyclamen still doing well. It's picked up, gotten a little breezy here. Here you can see the bananas are starting to actually put out leaves. That's what they do. They send up the stubs and eventually a leaf will emerge. Pups will come out of those other dead stumps. Just haven't done it yet. I did notice my camellias are in bloom, of course, still blooming. But I did notice my Brushfield Yellow is in bloom. Ground is soft. I don't know as if I would call it a yellow or a beige, but its name is Brushfield Yellow. This unnamed variety is still looking gorgeous, and I want to say it's probably about 3 weeks old already, and only one blossom has fallen off. They really retain their flowers for a long time. And if you cut them, they only last a couple of days in the house. My high fragrance still blooming. The newer buds don't look like they were affected by the frost at all. This unnamed white variety, still in blossom. It is possible with camellias to really, you can stretch the season. Usually, I want to say from October. If you went back through my videos this year, you could prove the exact date because my white doves was the first to bloom this year. But from October to February, that's not bad. Or actually March. This will go into March. Royal Velvet. And of course, Professor Sargent. This is the camellia that started me going on camellias. I can't really get a good picture of that without falling over. I will be cutting back the cycads this week. This is big trash pickup this Friday, and I will be getting rid of all the dead cycad leaves at least. That's a tickle. I don't know about the Australian tree fern. I don't see any signs of life yet. This is only my second year of having it here. I haven't given up on it, but at least as of yet, it doesn't look all that promising. If it does die, that will be the absolute perfect spot for my grandmother's forsythia that I have rooted in the backyard. These are the first paper whites that I had planted. They were in that fancy blue jardiniere. And the first few bloomed, but they left buds on some of the others and they just didn't bloom. And now they are after I planted them out. My Pieris japonica is setting buds. Here, this was the week of power washing the deck. It was a task that needed doing. Their moss was growing all over the deck. It was power washed last year, but the moss came back with a vengeance. And here is my, I have to be careful stepping in here because it's gushy. I absolutely love this Lenten rose. You can see there's crap on the back of it. That was what was power washed off the deck. But thank God we didn't use any soap. So all it is grime and dirt that came off of the deck. So the rains will wash it off. My Queen Bessie is still blooming. This was the sunnier side. The shadier side is now opening. So the blossoms have really gone, they are huge too. It's a shame they don't have a fragrance, but they're coming up now on the shadier side. This hellebore, or Lenten rose, has got buds. It's fixing to bloom. I brought that one back from New York, where the hellebores used to like double and triple just about every year. They would get bigger and bigger and bigger. Haven't had that luck here yet, but I may have with planting that purple one there, because that one seems to really like that location. Here you can see the daffodil I was talking about. It looks similar to a paper white, only it's a double blossom. Very fragrant. Is it a nice fragrance? At first, yes. Let's leave it at that. It will start to smell a little bit like cat pee after a while. But the nice thing about it is you can see how it naturalizes. That was one bulb planted many years ago. And I had many more like that in here, and what I did is divided them and put them around elsewhere. I only planted them in two spots, one here and one on the other side of the same garden. And since then I have divided them and put them elsewhere. They seem to grow and multiply wherever I put them, so it's a good one to have. The hyacinths are looking well. Pansies look really good too. Of course, those I already bought, so. I don't see seeds popping up yet. Lots of weeds, but none of my violas just yet. I did plant up here. I cleaned this out a little. Put in the little small daffodils that I took out from the potager, and a couple of the, I bought 3 pots of grape hyacinths, and I brought one inside the house and the others I split up and put here. I will need to go back to, I think it was Stokes that sold me that and said that it would survive the 20 degrees weather that we have, and it did. Got a little pup on the side. So I will definitely get more because they'll survive outside. A lot to be said for that. My Gora, or Gara, however you pronounce it, is coming back. It likes pots, apparently. Very dry over here because of this palm frond. Hopefully it'll get more rain today. This camellia is just about over. I did try recipe. I said I wasn't going to, but I did, because I figured if I'm going to try it, now's the time. These leaves are very fleshy. Almost kind of reminds me of artichoke. In any event, what I did was I found a recipe. It's basically pickled in a brine that's made up of, 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, half a cup of sugar, and I think a teaspoon or 2 of salt. And basically that's it. Put the petals inside that, immerse them, and keep them in a dark, cool place for a few weeks. I'm on week 1. It's very similar. I make a pickled red onion, slice red onions really thinly. Basically make the same brine. And the only difference is in that particular recipe, I put 3 or 4 whole cloves in it. Comes out really good. It takes the sharpness of the onion away, of the raw onion. Ligularia is sprouting back. Oh, here of course is more of the daffodils. You see a bunch more blooms. This, by the way, is where the bagged leaves are going to go that I have in the front. On this side, as well as that side. They're from a Bradford pear. Bradford pears have very nice leaves. Usually they're chocolate colored. The other thing, when you take leaves in from outside, since I no longer have big trees, is you never know what you're going to get. So I like to at least have the same type of leaf in a particular area so that you don't have different colors. Here you can see the ladyfinger palm. The frostbit ones are definitely turning brown, but still got new green in the middle. I put my ceramic chicken over here. When I moved it off the porch, the bottom fell out of it, so I could throw it out, but I figured, well, stick it in the ground, no one will be any the wiser. It freaks out the cats every now and then when they round the corner and see something that's new. I have flowers on my strawberries already. I don't see any sprouts yet on the holly that was cut back, but they will come. This forsythia hasn't got any buds yet, flower bud. They're there, they just haven't opened. And this forsythia has started to open its flowers. Last week it had one. Well, it's not as spectacular as what I used to have up north. However, it is growing, and it has more and more flowers every year. They do really need full sun to bloom profusely. This is my grandmother's forsythia. It's already a nice sized bush, so like I say, if that Australian tree fern should happen to die, that's its replacement. Got some footsteps I have to follow. This is the second time I'm making this video. The first time I made the video, I dropped the camera when I bent down to take a close-up of a plant. So it's kind of hard to remember what I said in this video versus others. But here are a bunch of buds on my blueberries. The one that's in the full sun seems to be doing better bud-wise than these. These are gradually getting more and more shady. But I'll take what I can get. I do see some new growth on the bottle brush. Maybe those are flower buds. I don't know. I haven't had much experience with bottle brush. I do know that's going to be a huge plant when it takes off. This loquat stump, the tree, used to inhibit its growth. That, of course, is where that ponytail palm spent its summer. I did fill up the holes that some animal had made in my grass. I'm feeding 3 cats here, which you can tell by all these spots. That's where they used the litter box in my grass, but it is what it is. But the animal that was using these holes apparently no longer was, because the grass was growing around the edges. So I had some extra. I never throw potting soil in the trash. If I'm getting rid of a pot, I'll shake all the soil out and use it for something. So that's what I filled the holes with, was some spent potting soil. And last but not least, we have the clean deck and ramp. It's not quite as slippery as it used to be. I noticed this while power washing. Let me get down here. These are my snowflakes, or leucogyms. It's the only spot that they seem to grow. Unfortunately, they did get stepped on when we were pollarding the tree, crepe myrtle, but they came back. It's amazing how nature recovers. I was a little concerned about that because, you know, you forget where things are planted. I did plant me some new lettuce. The other lettuce I had planted way back in November was still green. It lived through all the cold. I never brought it in. And it seemed to like that spot, so I planted some new in its place. Here's some of these big ones in the back, grape hyacinths I got from Walmart. The other ones in the rest of the pot, as well as most of the ones in that pot, came from New York. Those are the paper whites from the last batch. And it looks nicer here without the chicken, a little more open. I moved the plumeria over. It's getting some new growth. The deck is looking sad, but at least it's clean. It's clean, no longer slippery. And I have other projects that I want to do this year. Bigger fish to fry than the deck. So it's one of the things, even in a house as well as a garden, you're never going to quite be done. You hear that a lot on these fix-it shows. Oh, I'm finished, it's finished. It ain't going to stay finished. You're going to need to maintain stuff. There's always going to be something breaking. So you just have to learn to relax and accept that fact and realize it ain't never going to be perfect. So you might as well enjoy what you have. Don't miss out on what's in front of your face while you're thinking about what's going to be there. So that's about it for today. I wish you all well. Happy Mardi Gras. Happy Valentine's Day. And I think there's some kind of a ball game on this weekend. Till next week, have a good day. Bye-bye.